What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today we have a fun one, talking about the most polarizing players in drafts and if I like them at their current ADP. Start things off with Tony Pollard. Pollard is the 27th running back off boards, going in that like 7th or 8th round, a little bit earlier in redraft leagues. Pollard has seen his touch count rise in every single season of his career, committed 232 touches 2 years ago, an impressive 307 touches last season, one less touch than Derrick Henry. As we all know, though, it didn't end up that great. Pollard had by far his least efficient season of his career, gaining just 4.3 yards per touch to compare to 5.7 leading up to last season. 1.4 yards per touch less efficient than his career average last season. That is not great. He also only scored 1 out of every 51 touches compared to a career average of once in every 28 touches going to last season. And if you're like, oh, okay, well, that's just because they threw the ball at time they got close. To a degree, but like only McCaffrey had more red zone carries than Tony Pollard last season, and only 5 running backs had more carries inside the 5-yard line. Like, make no mistake, Tony Pollard was bad last season. Really no getting around that fact. So the question is, was it the injury he was coming back from, or was it just like he is on the decline, or maybe just like he can't be that efficient on that many touches? Now, I don't think anyone can actually know the answer to those questions, but here's my best guess. I do believe him when he says that, he wasn't 100% to start last season, but I would weigh that a little bit more had he gained efficiency, right? Like he basically said before their bye, he just wasn't 100%, didn't really feel 100% until after their bye because it was, a pretty gnarly leg injury that he was recovering from, and it was very late in the season. So you give him that. But the thing is, those are just words unless we actually see a change in efficiency. But we didn't. Like if you look at how he performed in efficiency in the first half of the season to the second half of the season, it's the same. So again, I'd put more weight into that fact had he, gone from like 3.5 yards per carry to 5. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You weren't healthy, now you're healthy. He was at like 4 both ways. Like it didn't change anything. Now Pollard's moving to a completely new system. We know that is something that not 100% of the time, but sometimes is a factor in running backs starting a little bit slower the following season and maybe just not reaching their peak. He's competing with a running back that looked fantastic as a rookie. You guys know I am very high on Tyjae Spears. Coach has already come out and been like, this is a committee. This is a split. We view these two interchangeably. And if they're already anticipating a split, in my eyes, that means it's the best case for Pollard. Because think about it, like this is a team that went out and they invested in Tony Pollard. So they clearly think that he's better than he was last season. So for them to say, okay, we think you're better than last season, it's going to be a split. Like they already know how good Tyjae Spears is, and they gave Pollard a pretty decent contract. So again, they're presumably expecting him to be better than last season. So if he comes in and he is better than last season, it's a split. That's what they were expecting, and they'll split it. What if he's worse, or what if he is last season, right? Like what if last season is the new Tony Pollard post-injury? Well, now, don't we think that the split will now be in favor of Spears, who's going 30 picks after Tony Pollard? So I'm not saying I'm going to be out on Pollard all summer, but at current ADPs, even if we assume he's the 1A, it's not like he's the clear 1A, and it's 1A. It's not 1 and 2. I don't know. I just wait 30 picks and draft Tyjae Spears, who's in a very, very similar situation. And realistically, if you had to make me guess who's better at this point in their careers, I would say Tyjae Spears. That makes me out on Pollard. Another polarizing player is Cooper Kupp, 24th running back off boards, going in the late 3rd to early 4th round, kind of depending on your format there, but basically around the 3-4 turn in a lot of formats. So up to this point in the offseason, I've been pretty out on Kupp, and not out to the degree where I won't draft him. The thing is, he doesn't fall. So that's the issue sometimes with, I think I've drafted or ranked, 2 to 3 picks behind ADP. It's just that he never really makes it to that point. And it's not like I've done, 100 drafts, right? I've only done a limited amount, and I've drafted him a couple times, but definitely below average. I have him ranked basically behind Neighbors, Dell, Metcalf, Devonta Smith. So that's basically the range, just to kind of keep in your mind. Again, Malik Neighbors, Tank Dell, DK Metcalf, Devonta Smith. Think about those 4 players as we're kind of doing this breakdown. I have them ranked just beyond that group, and it's just pretty unlikely in drafts that that group all goes, and then I'm sitting there and Cooper Kupp's top on the board. If it happens, great. I'll draft him. But it hasn't been happening, so I haven't gotten him a lot. So am I right, basically? Made this video. That was kind of just the thought process was, do I need to move him up? Honestly, I think I am kind of right for how I have him ranked there. He was, awesome, obviously, when healthy. Last 3 years, when he's been able to be 100% healthy, he's been insane. Especially, 2021 was crazy. 145 receptions, nearly 2,000 receiving yards, 16 touchdowns. And while he hasn't gone over 820 yards in a year since then, the 2 years since then, on a per game basis, he's still been very, very good. Last season, though, he did see a dip in efficiency, and also just his days of having that high end target share were gone. He had a 73% catch rate going into last season for his career, dipped way down to 62%. That's not great. But the biggest thing is that target share, right? When he broke records in 2021, his target competition was Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee, Robert Woods, Odell for only part of the season. Not very much competition there. And then when he was going off to start 2022, competition was Higbee. Ben Skoranek, I'm not making this up. He was the second most targeted player behind Tyler Higbee, of course, behind Cooper Kupp. But Higbee, Skoranek, Dusty Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, and Brandon Powell. So basically, it was Kupp, and then just a bunch of absolute scrubs in 2021 and 2022, which is why he averaged 9.5 targets per game. The Rams offense works similar to the 49ers in that they focus very heavily on scheming players open, and they are extraordinarily good at that. That's why we like targeting players on these teams with creative head coaches, Miami, San Fran, and the Rams, because they are able to take a player who is good, right? Obviously, all these players are featured around really good players, but to also just scheme them completely open and make them into superstars. So we know that in those years, not only was Cooper Kupp incredible, he was being schemed open beautifully. That's going to lead to a league-winning ceilings. So I'm not saying that Kupp was bad, is bad. He was really good, and he is still really good. He was just by far their best wide receiver. And when every single play is designed to go to you, it's going to go to you, right? Consistently. But then last season, in steps Puka Nacua. And for the first time, there's another competent wide receiver who they can scheme looks to. So yes, injuries held back his efficiency. And if he's fully healthy this season, I could see that efficiency going back up. But I don't think we're going to see the days of that 14, 15, 19 targets a week coming back at 31 years old now, with injuries remaining a concern and now having this target ceiling to worry about. Puka out-targeted Cooper Kupp from week 12 on last season when Cooper Kupp was fully healthy, and Puka was their go-to in their playoff game when everything was on the line, and again, when Cooper Kupp was fully healthy. So in my eyes, Kupp's upside now comes from a Puka injury, which is the complete reversal of last season. We go into last season, we're like, okay, Puka could be good. He could break out. They're saying a lot of good things about him, but he probably only hits a ceiling if Kupp gets injured. Kupp gets injured, Puka hits a ceiling. But then again, it wasn't just the injury to why Puka was good. Puka is just a very good wide receiver, and they're now scheming him some of the looks that they were only scheming Cooper Kupp. And it doesn't make me feel great at the tail end of round 3 into round 4 that my wide receiver kind of needs the other wide receiver who's going in round 1 to get injured to reach their ceiling, especially when they're older. Cooper Kupp is not getting any younger, and he's struggled through injuries 2 consecutive seasons now. This is a concern for me, so it's why I really like the rankings. Again, Neighbors, Dell, Metcalf, Devonta Smith. After that, he's for sure ahead. Cooper Kupp is definitely ahead of T. Higgins, Zay Flowers, George Pickens, for sure ahead of them. I just have him right behind that group. So unless his ADP falls a little bit, I'm a little bit out on Kupp this season. Third polarizing player is Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence comes off the board as the quarterback 15 going in round 10. I'll make this breakdown a little bit quick because it's not like totally Trevor Lawrence's fault. It's more just like my mindset when I'm drafting quarterback. My mentality is always, can you win me a championship? This is a onesie position. This is a position where, every single week, unless there's buys, but, every single week there's like 32 starting quarterbacks. You're probably in a 12-team league. Like, for someone to be a league winner at that position, you got to be capable of finishing top 5, right? You're probably not going to have a league winner at quarterback finish 10th, right? That kind of doesn't make sense unless it just went off in the finals, but, we can't exactly predict that right now. So, again, my mentality is, can you turn into a league winner? Give me Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels, players who can absolutely be true league winners at their ADP. Trevor Lawrence is someone that is probably going to have some good games, probably is not going to be a complete bust, but who has basically a 0% chance of posting a league-winning season. At least take a chance at quarterback. If you miss, who cares? Trade for one, stream one off free agency. If you're streaming, you're probably going to get relatively close to Trevor Lawrence value. Anyways, don't draft a mediocre quarterback with no ceiling, because then you're just going to feel obligated to start him. Like now every week you're like, okay, Trevor Lawrence is like slightly better than, streaming. I'm having a hard time getting like a really good trade because I have to upgrade from Trevor Lawrence, and no one really wants Trevor Lawrence because, again, he's a mediocre quarterback that is basically just streaming. And it could really hurt you in the long run if you kind of just feel forced to start him every week. It doesn't really hurt you in the long run if you draft Jaden Daniels. He ends up being mediocre, right? You cut him and you stream someone who's basically going to get you what Trevor Lawrence was anyways, or you try and pull off a trade. But at least he has the upside. Like Jaden Daniels could be a top 5 quarterback this season. Anthony Richardson could be the quarterback 1 by a mile. So could Kyler Murray. Like that's in their range of outcomes. It's not there for Trevor Lawrence, so I don't draft him. Fourth polarizing player is someone that I would actually be okay with drafting, finally. And it's Kyle Pitts, which is probably the person that you guys are going to be most off of. Now, I get it. If he's burned you, you're done with him. Listen, don't draft him, right? Like there are plenty of other options to go to, and there are some really strong tight end options this season. But the quarterback is an obvious upgrade. And with the departure of Arthur Smith, we're not only getting a big boost in overall targets, we're getting a big boost in the quality of those targets, right? Quality goes up with the change of quarterback. Boost in targets goes up with Arthur Smith leaving. Desmond Ridder had 12 passing touchdowns in 15 games last season. Like, wrap your head around that. 12 total passing touchdowns in 15 games last year, averaged 189 passing yards per game on 16.5 completions. Since he became the starter in 2015, Kirk Cousins has averaged 7 more completions for 80 more yards and a little over 1 extra passing touchdown per game. So I know it's not as simple as just taking that and adding it to the Falcons, right? Like we need to actually do some math to figure out their total target shares. But honestly, it's not that different, and it's a very easy exercise to do. If you just add 7 for 80 and a touchdown to this passing offense every single game, that's basically what we can expect going from Ridder to Kirk Cousins. And given the massive lack of depth that they have in Atlanta, a huge percentage of those looks are going to Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So then you think, okay, look at last season. What sort of increase did Kyle Pitts need last season, playing through a knee injury all year to pay off his ADP as a tight end 6? He needs about 1 extra catch a week for about 3 more touchdowns over the entire season. That is absolutely doable. Again, if you just add 7 for 80 and a touchdown to his passing offense every week, and you're splitting it amongst, like 4 dudes? I'm thinking Pitts can go out there and get 1 extra catch. Now, that would be like the minimum of what he needs, but I'm expecting a very big increase in efficiency. That's going to help. Could he add 2 extra catches a week? Absolutely. Could he go out there and have 10 touchdowns this season? Absolutely. Like, you start running through the numbers, and it's like he basically had a floor season last year, being hurt all year, playing with Desmond Ridder, and he was the tight end 13. Tight end 6 off the board is completely fair. And what do I always go to? Upside wins championships. Target players who have a league-winning ceiling. I know no one wants to hear it, but again, Kyle Pitts was one of, if not the best tight end prospects we've ever seen. Please don't write him off. He's not even 24 years old yet. Travis Kelce did not have a catch in the NFL until his age 25 season. Pitts turns 24 in October. If you're just going to completely write off his entire career because he's been in a horrible situation with horrible quarterbacks playing through injury, that's kind of tough, especially when he had one of the better rookie seasons ever for a tight end. So I like going back to him this season. It's not going to feel amazing, but at the tight end 6, you're already after the locked in wide receivers and running backs. You're after the range where those like elite quarterbacks are off the board. Like, you may have a rock solid running back, quarterback, 2 wide receivers, and be fully capable of taking a shot on Kyle Pitts at this point. I would do it. Final polarizing player we'll go over today is Austin Ekeler. Now, running back 34 off boards, going in that like 9-10 round range, coming off back-to-back seasons before last year, was coming off back-to-back seasons of over 1,550 yards, at least 70 receptions, and at least 18 touchdowns. He had 18 touchdowns one year, 20 touchdowns the year before. Unfortunately, suffers a high ankle sprain in week 1 after gaining 154 yards and a touchdown, which, ultimately never got passed. That basically always happens. Whenever a player, especially early in the season, they suffer a high ankle sprain, you just got to get rid of them. Like, at this point, we have seen so many examples of a player suffering a high ankle sprain, and you basically just have to wait till next season or maybe into like the NFL playoffs. Like, it is just an injury that you're going to miss a month, and then the next couple months are going to be really difficult for you to gain your efficiency back. And we saw that with, Ekeler last season. So after his monster week 1, suffers the injury, misses 3 weeks, then he averages 3.1 yards per carry. It looks like absolute dust in most weeks. Then he signs a 2-year, $8.4 million contract with the Commanders. It has $4.2 million guaranteed, which ranks 25th among all running backs in guaranteed money, and was less than Saquon, Mixon, Swift, Jacobs, Pollard, Singletary, Henry, Aaron Jones, and Antonio Gibson got in free agency. So not a good look, right? Coming off a horribly inefficient season, then getting not that big of a contract on a team where you're walking into a committee, like they love Brian Robinson, he's going to be involved, on a team that drafted a hypermobile quarterback, meaning fewer dump-offs and fewer rushing touchdowns for the running backs, which is like both Ekeler's specialty. It's not great. I will say this, though. The running backs going after him, like, everything is relative, right? Okay, it's not great. So yeah, he's not a top 5 pick in fantasy football anymore. But the running backs going after him in drafts right now are Brian Robinson, who has very similar concerns to Ekeler, and the fact that the running backs will see fewer touchdowns and fewer receptions this season. Maybe a positive, though, that Daniels is likely just a better quarterback. And so if the total touchdowns increase, it's okay that Daniels takes a few of them for himself. Gus Edwards, who's going to have 3 receptions this year. Chase Brown, who could easily be a change of pace back. It could still just be Moss. That's the lead back all season. Tyjae Spears, who we like. And then Zeke, who probably needs absolutely no explanation. Beyond that group, it is pure handcuffs and even third string running backs. So again, it's not like you're drafting Austin Ekeler, instead of a bunch of stud running backs, some amazing, tight ends, quarterbacks, wide receivers. All of those players are gone. We are in the handcuff range. And while he's 29 years old, he does not have nearly as many career touches as most 29-year-old running backs. And a lot of those touches come on receptions. And so for many of them, he's able to get out of bounds a little bit more. And it's just like he himself has taken fewer hits than nearly all 29-year-old running backs, besides maybe like Raheem Mostert, who broke out at age 29. So again, I do think of anyone who claims foul due to injury, I think the high ankle sprain for Ekeler really was the reason he was highly inefficient, because it was the only stretch of time that we saw him be inefficient. And it was like he was amazing in week 1, suffers the injury, terrible for the rest of the season. He was going on podcasts talking about, even right when it happened, how he's played through this before, it's really difficult, and that he's probably not going to be efficient. I don't think it's all on him. I don't think he's dust. I think that there are real concerns about the opportunity, but it's pretty undeniable that a player who's been a top 4 running back in 2 of the last 3 years has upside if you're going to draft him in the double-digit rounds instead of a handcuff. Yeah, I'll take Austin Ekeler instead of a handcuff, given what we've seen from him, how productive we've seen from him in the very recent past. So that's my take on some polarizing players this season. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with my takes? Do you disagree with them? Let me know. You can see my take on every single player in the draft for free. My rankings are free this season. All you have to do is sign up for your first Underdog account today using promo code FFA and make a minimum $10 deposit. You'll be able to use that deposit plus the bonus they give you to join fantasy football leagues, and you're getting an email from me the following morning with login information to my website, giving you both my Underdog rankings and my redraft rankings. So this is not just an Underdog thing. If you sign up for Underdog using my promo code, again, promo code FFA, deposit at least $10, you will get my redraft rankings as well for free. So if you watch this far, be sure to hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to hit that button as well. And if you are subscribed, still click the bell icon next to it so you know when the new videos are coming out. That, my friends, is in this one. I'll catch you in the next one, and thanks for watching.